Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Briar Wilson, and I'm a proud student reporter for Fanshawe College's Interrobang. There are many Interrobang staff in the audience today, if you guys want to wave your hands. Jack. For those of you who are unaware, a recent decision was made by the FSU to end a half-century campus tradition known as the Interrobang. The Interrobang is a Fanshawe College news source that produces papers, news articles, and podcasts that keep you up to date on everything from our political infrastructure to which of your favorite artists won the iHeartRadio Awards last night. And we hope with your help we can continue to do just that. Many of us have a thing, something that makes us tick, a passion, a love, something that gives us purpose. For some of you, it might be a sport, a hobby, or a dream job. For me, it's this. Like many of my coworkers at the Interrobang, journalism is our thing. Telling stories, connecting humans, finding the truth, holding people accountable, and educating people. My passions aside, this issue affects you too. You may not understand how, but journalism is a basic human right, the right to know. In 1972 in the US, the Washington Post exposed the Watergate break-in and cover-ups that were part of a larger pattern of corruption within the Nixon government administration. This eventually resulted in the resignation of President Nixon. In the 1990s in Canada, the Globe and Mail, CBC, and other organizations headlined investigations into residential schools. This exposed the widespread abuse, neglect, and cultural genocide inflicted on Indigenous children in Canada's residential schools that triggered a formal apology from the Canadian government in 2008 and the creation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. In 2010, right here in London, Ontario, on Western University campuses, the London Free Press exposed several high-profile cases of sexual harassment and assault at the university, particularly incidents involving students and staff. These investigations led to public outcry and significant changes at Western University, including the creation of new programs to combat sexual violence on campus, better reporting systems, and more support for survivors. Internationally, to right here on our very campuses, journalism is essential. Without it, nations are left in the dark, unaware of the decisions made by people in power, pain inflicted on certain communities. A world without journalism is a world where nobody can hear the cries of change. You might be thinking this is very large scale and the Interrobang is only a school paper. That couldn't be further from the truth. The Interrobang is a community. It is a training tool for young journalists like me. It is a student voice. The Interrobang is journalism. And journalism is a human right, a change maker, a source of truth, and a force to be reckoned with. So today, we're using journalism in its truest form to tell you no. We do not accept this. We will not stop speaking out, telling stories, and telling the truth. We are holding you accountable for this decision, as journalists do, and hope you are ready to face the cry for change that always follows. Today, we're doing a live taping of what might be one of the last Interrobang Red Couch podcasts. We hope you will join us and consider signing the petition to keep this campus artery alive. Thank you.
Okay, wow, Briar, that was very well spoken. So the Red Couch podcast, you might have seen on YouTube, or you might have heard it on 106.9 The X, but it's a weekly podcast that we do at the Interrobang. We like to talk to members of the Fanshawe community, especially, and keep students informed of what's going on around the college and in some of these people's lives. So normally it's taped in the FSU building and it gets released on the same day as our issue. However, this time we're doing it live, so everyone can kind of see what we do and how we do what we do. So our first guest today is Lisa Green. She is the coordinator of the TV news program here at Fanshawe, as well as a professor in the journalism program. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Jack.
So Lisa has been teaching at the college for So
3 years.
3 years, and has had the privilege of teaching me, right?
Yes.
And many, many other students. She teaches a good chunk of the classes in the broadcast journalism program, and has had a very long career in the industry. So what we want to talk about today, Lisa, is what is independent journalism, and what does that mean?
Independent journalism is stories that do not have, for lack of a better word, pressure from anyone. It's all about the truth. So it's not about the president's office saying that they want a story done. It's not about the FSU saying they want a story done. It's about telling stories without any kind of pressure or other people making decisions on what you write. That's really what good journalism is, and what being an objective observer is.
So in Canada right now, what do you think is the current state of independent journalism?
Well, I think that a lot of people want to make a lot of money. And so journalism is definitely suffering as the industry morphs into social media and various other ways people get their information. And it's harder now to find independent journalism than it was even 2 years ago. And so it's a bit disturbing. We see, a bunch of sort of what, for lack of a better term, fake news being put out there as actual journalism, and it's not. And so we're seeing more and more of that to fill the void as big companies downsize. And that's really unfortunate.
So you mentioned kind of some of those negative consequences, fake news, misinformation, downsizing. What else can happen when independent journalism comes under threat?
Well, in the case of the Interrobang, stories are not being told if the Interrobang is not telling those stories. So it's not just about employing students. It's not just about giving journalism students and graphic design students a leg up in their career. It's about all the people at Fanshawe who, play sports and, are in nursing school, and the programs and the new things in programs. None of those things will be covered the same way if there isn't an independent voice at Fanshawe. And so it's would be a very large loss for independent journalism if the Interrobang was not continued.
All right. So we've seen through other articles by other media organizations that have covered what's going on at Fanshawe, kind of the FSU's plan going forward. Without the Interrobang, they're saying money will go towards other positions, maybe an uptick in social media updates for students from the FSU, some new full-time positions. And I wonder, I think it's no secret that younger generations do get a lot of news content from social media, and it is a growing force day by day. But can you explain kind of what the difference is between, say, a newspaper or a legitimate news organization versus social media, shall we say, current event updates?
Yes. Well, the FSU telling people working for them what stories to do is public relations. It is not journalism. It is not independent journalism. It is not being an objective observer. It's being the public relations arm of the FSU. And I don't believe that's going to benefit anybody at Fanshawe, not the students, not the programs, not anybody who cares about great storytelling. So it's completely different. It's actually wouldn't be journalism at all. It's It's the opposite of journalism. It's actually the opposite, the mirror opposite of journalism.
Yeah, and there's a PR program at Fanshawe, right?
Absolutely, there's a PR program, and that's what they learn. They learn to pitch stories and get the word out for organizations like the FSU. The FSU, yay, we're doing this, we're doing that, and our people are going to tell you about it. That is very different than legit stories being told by journalists.
All right. So you mentioned at one point kind of the opportunities for students, whether you're in journalism or graphic design or production. The Interrobang, as you mentioned, gives opportunities like that for professional experience. I know myself, Briar, Ainsley, Georgia, all the Interrobang staff, really, for the most part, are students getting this experience. Could you tell me a little bit more about why you think it's important?
Well, firstly, you named people who are currently working for the Interrobang. We have students over a 50-year period who have gone out and practiced journalism at the Interrobang. And the Interrobang is, it really is a bridge for students to go on to working full-time in the industry. But it's, again, not just about the student it employs. It's about all the stories about all the Fanshawe students around the college, in the nursing program, in trades, on the athletic clubs. So many stories in the Indigenous Center. Those stories are not going to be told if there is no Interrobang. Yes, we have the X. That's great, but I think one of the things that I was a bit concerned about was, instead of trying to figure out how to morph the Interrobang into maybe, or having a discussion about morphing the Interrobang into something that they thought would be better, it was just canceled. And that's a real problem. So yes, it helps the students. We have students all over the country who worked at the Interrobang now working in newsrooms and in other places.
Yeah, I think it's certainly been a stepping stone, as I've heard you say and others say, towards bigger things after college. Now, with student journalism in particular, and you mentioned we have the X, but a student publication. So that, I think it's something that you see at many post-secondary institutions. Now, have you seen in your career any kind of decline in student publications at other institutions?
No, I have not. In fact, other places, I'm from the West Coast, and the student newspaper at the University of British Columbia is super important. And they break stories that are important to their community and the students and their parents and their grandparents. And it's not just important to students, it's important to society. It's a societal issue, is what it is. So no, I have not seen that. Student newspapers have been around for hundreds of years, and they are really important for community, for breaking stories. I mean, as Briar said, that wasn't a student newspaper, but newspapers are important, and they affect change. And we can affect change here. And it raises the profile of Fanshawe like it does in every other post-secondary institution. It raises the profile. And I know for a fact, having worked in many newsrooms, that the people who work in mainstream media actually read the Interrobang, really? And they get stories about our students that they then go and follow for a bigger audience. So there's so many reasons why this is important. So many reasons for the students at this school.
Absolutely, that's really nice to hear. Actually, that people are reading what we put out in the Interrobang. Now, I've heard it cited that readership is on the decline. I've also heard other sources saying that that's not true and that it's actually on the rise. But if readership is an issue, what do you think? How can a student publication kind of boost that readership and get more people aware?
Well, probably more social media, as you just said, right? And I'm not sure the effort's been put into that. And maybe instead of just canceling the Interrobang, that maybe a little bit more thought should go into how we can narrow focus a little bit more than what we've been doing and still be able to tell those great stories and make sure they are promoted properly.
Yeah, so it sounds like, change is possible, right?
Yep.
But it can go both ways, and nothing has to go. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely.
All right. What do you think would be the best outcome here?
Well, I mean, I'd like to see the student population, the majority actually have a voice in this. I don't know about you, but I haven't met one person in the entire college that knew this was happening. And so if the petition would get hopefully a referendum and would allow the students to have a voice here on whether the paper or whatever form it's in, the paper, the podcast, the Interrobang, to continue. And I mean, nobody I know in the entire college, students, teachers, faculty, administration, no one knew this was happening. So it would be lovely to see the students have a voice in this, and that's where I would like to see it go. It's not my place. It's my place to say, yes, this is important. The students should have a voice in this.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Lisa. Lovely to hear your thoughts on everything. All right. Yeah, let's put that down. All right, that was Lisa Green, coordinator of Fanshawe's TV news program and a professor in the broadcast journalism program. So I'm Jack Sutton, one of the regular hosts of this podcast. You might have seen me, especially last semester. I've been on a little hiatus. Briar Wilson and Ainsley Krinslocker are the other hosts. So I'm going to pass the mic off to Briar for our next guest.
Did you miss me? I was not gone very long, but I'm back on my couch. If you've watched the Interrobang at all, then you know I love this couch very much. I've had lots of great conversations on this couch about Taylor Swift. Sorry, that might be a little biased. And that's not my job. Our next guest was actually my very first guest that I ever had on this podcast, which was very special to me because that's where I got all my training and my first ever experience. So I'm going to welcome back Belinda. She is a member of our Indigenous room here on campus, which I'm also a part of. So Belinda, come on up. Awesome.
Right on. Hello, my friend.
Hello, how are you?
Joe.
You were my first ever guest on this podcast. Did you know that? That's how special
I think
this
I did.
is.
I think
How do you
I
feel to
did.
be back on this couch?
I feel great, and I want more. We can't have this end. Right?
So actually about, I want to say a week ago, I headed down to the Indigenous Center to see you, and I brought with me a lovely piece of paper, and I told you what was happening. And can you take me back to that moment, and what was your reaction when I told you what was going on and what this piece of paper that I was handing you meant?
My moment was that moment I was in shock. I was so surprised. As your previous guest mentioned, I had not had any knowledge that the Interrobang was going to be shut down. And as a former student and a graduate and a longtime employee of this college and a mother of a Fanshawe graduate, and the mother of another future Fanshawe graduate, I still take the Interrobang home anytime it's published to read it, because I work in the Institute of Indigenous Learning. My name is Belinda Sayo, by the way. I have a long, varied history at Fanshawe. I've worked in a lot of different areas, student awards, financial aid, the First Nations Center, financial services, accounts payable. But part of that whole community of this college and what it is today, because this is going back to 2007, is that so many things that go on in this college are in that newspaper. So you can find out what students are drawing. You can find out about MIA. You can find out about Share the Land. You can find out about, say, things like, hey, one time there was an Indigenous student here in 2010 who won a provincial award at Fanshawe College that nobody has ever won before or since, and that is me. And I am saying that because you know what? Rah, I still have that issue of the Interrobang in my belongings, in my souvenirs, and it's hugely meaningful, and it's something I'm proud of. As an Indigenous person and as an Indigenous mentor, you know, I work with students, I help Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit students get into school, of which Briar is one. But I didn't help you get here, but you know, you're still part of our community as a Métis, Indigenous, or Inuit student. So part of what we're doing is we're trying to build community, and we are succeeding. We have, right, Jack, you know too, as part of our community, that we have close to over 900 students at our several different campuses in Southwestern Ontario. We have amazing journalist students like yourselves. We have other people who are graphic design students, radio students, maybe students in something like, you know, sales, things like that. And that's one of the things that's on, you know, the X, because I listen to that every day too. And if somebody shut that down, I would be heartbroken. I love the X. I love the music they play. I love hearing Jack do the news in the morning, and you too, or hearing maybe myself on a Sunday with doing the 107 or almost 107. So I say, as far as the community goes, like, I mean, and I will say right now, where are our students today? Because I think it's really important that we remember that it is, in order to create this amazing community, we have to make it happen maybe on our own. And I say that in ways, you know, because sometimes that's what we have to do. We put ourselves out there. As an Indigenous person, and I'll tell you, you know, this is no secret, but maybe if you look around your teachers, your profs, or the administration of the college, not a lot of Indigenous people, right? But I will say, you know, as I was saying to Jack yesterday, the Fifth Estate is very important. It's important as we are a college of information. It's important as we are growing with technology. Things are changing, yes. But that little newspaper is one of the most important things to keep us together as a community. And I think sometimes, you know, you look at this Fanshawe saying the slogan, "Here for you." Are you really, if that's what you're going to take away, something that's bonding us together and kind of keeping us linked? You know, I work over in the A building, so kind of the far end of the campus. Right now, as you can see, I'm having some hip issues, so I'm a little bit mobility challenged. It's not fatal, not terminal, I'll be okay. But it's painful. So I can't go walking over the Oasis all the time, you know, or go sometimes to maybe like around the campus, things like that. So I actually use the Interrobang as a way to keep myself engaged and informed of what's happening in the college community. And I care about our students. And that's a big, important thing for everybody to know. I'm proud to work here, but I really struggle with the motive behind this decision. And I am speaking out about it. I'm happy, I'm grateful that you've asked me to be here. And I think it's important that as people who are all stakeholders in this college and in this community, that we stand up and do something. I know it's not easy. Sometimes, again, we're working maybe with people who are very young. But as somebody, you know, again, I'm not known for keeping quiet sometimes, and I think this is one time when it's really important, and I say this very respectfully, but I just don't see where the gain will be out of canceling the Interrobang publication.
Yeah, for sure. That was a really beautiful anecdote to share.
Thank you,
One of
Megan.
my favorite stories I actually ever covered was that time that I got to head down to the center and we cooked nachos. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So
We had
these
homemade
stories,
pickled
homemade
jalapenos
and pickled
from
jalapenos.
Lake, yes.
These
God.
stories cannot be told without the Interrobang. So thinking back on that day and how many students were able to find out about these meals that the center puts on, and these people are finding out about these things through the student paper. So what does the student paper do for the center?
Well, the student paper, every time the FSU calendar comes out, anytime the Interrobang is published, the newspaper is dropped off to our institute, which is an A1046. Many students look at it, again, as staff, we all look at it because, again, some of us are not here all the time. Some of us are doing hybrid teaching. Some of us are doing further education in Toronto, one of my colleagues. Some of us just work, say, some recruiters, right? Our recruiters are sometimes out on the road a lot. And you can't always be here. We're not in classrooms, so it's not always easy for us to have that finger on the pulse of what's happening at Fanshawe College. However, with the Interrobang being there, we can see that. We can see, say, somebody's artwork, right? I love looking at the little cartoons, or I love reading some of the stuff because you know what? I'm 52 years old. I don't always know about what's going on at Sex Toy Bingo, but I have to say, when I was a student here, man, that was one of the funnest events to go to. So, and it still is. And I think there's part of that, again, it cycles back to what I say is community. And what we do very well at the Institute of Indigenous Learning is we help create that. I can tell you today, and this is not to brag, but I really care about our students and I get to know them on quite a personal level.
I can attest to that.
And I feed them, right, Briar? I feed you as much
Very
as I
good food.
can. I love to feed people. I love to share good cooking, things like that. Tonight we're doing a Cooking with Auntie B. That's me. We're, to show somebody something healthy, but to create that community, you can't do it as a silo. You can't do it without having, say, somebody where you can say, this is Jack Sutton who wrote this article. Here's a picture of Jack. Jack is a student in our, journalism program. That's huge. That's what we're here for, right? We're not here to read something online by somebody from another country, right? And I say that kindly and respectfully because I know that we have many students here from other countries. But I do know that in that newspaper, they're writing about our students, our city, our area, Southwestern Ontario, and ultimately, as it comes from me, our people, and that's what's really important to me, and that is why my job exists. So I take this very seriously. I think in this day and age, we had this discussion yesterday about the newspapers in this city. Who are they made by? Who publishes the London Free Press? Anybody know? Yes, I don't think it's a Canadian company. So if you think about that, you think about the globalism, you think about stuff like that. What do we want for our college? Do we want to be somebody like, okay, we used to have a great newspaper, but we shut it down for no good reason? And again, if somebody has a good reason, I'd like to hear it. But as far as this has come to me, and it's been a short couple weeks,
Yes.
I have not been enlightened as to the decision behind that and the reason. So I think it's important. We have to stand up and fight. And I think in Canada right now, we're actually realizing a little bit about how resilient we are and how much we can stand up and make our voices and opinions known. So I say this to you as the students who are here. I really think it's important that, you make your voices heard to the executive and the student union.
Thank you so much. And your community has always been heavily involved in the Interrobang, and we really appreciate that. Yeah. So everybody, This is Belinda. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Miigwech and Yahweh, for having me.
So, Jack, what did you make of today?
Well, it was really great to get to show everyone who's in the room today kind of how we do the Red Couch podcast. We do it every week. It's always up on our website, YouTube, 1069 The X on Sundays, I believe.
Yeah, every Sunday.
On Sundays, and wherever you get your podcasts, it's there. So I hope you got to enjoy just seeing us do it in person. It's really fun getting to talk to, all these different people in the Fanshawe community. So it's been one of my my favorite parts of this job since I started this year.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in. I know that this is a study space and we kind of intruded on your time, but we really appreciate everything that you tuned into today, and save the Interrobang. So for the Interrobang, I'm Briar Wilson.
And I'm Jack Sutton.